Thank you very much. Oof, what a welcome. TOC for retail. It's a serious matter, right? So let's start with a joke. A man goes into a store and he looks for something to buy, and then he sees a young boy selling, helping, organizing the merchandise. And he approached this salesman and he says, look, I want to buy half a watermelon. Do you sell half watermelons? And the salesman says, I'm sorry, sir, we don't sell half watermelons, only complete ones, full ones. No. Look, listen, I want half a watermelon. Sorry, sir, we don't have half a watermelon. If you want, I'll sell you a full one. That cannot be. It's impossible. If I want half a watermelon, you'll give me half a watermelon. Where is your boss? Take me to your manager. Okay, relax. I'll take you to the manager. And he turns around and he goes to the manager who is in the back of the store. And he doesn't notice that the customer is walking behind him. And he approached the manager and says, listen, there is this idiot, obnoxious, unbelievable, irritating customer there in the vegetable department insisting to buy half a watermelon. What do I do? And then he noticed the manager, he sees that the customer behind him. So he turns around, he sees the customer, and then immediately turns to the manager and says, and this fine gentleman is willing to buy the other half. Yeah, it's a joke. But you know what? This joke points out to a very prevalent and strong phenomena that we see more and more in supply chain, in retail business. And this is the pressure on retailers to accommodate the personal needs and requirements of a variety of customers. Basically putting pressure to work with wider and wider assortments and range. Agree, everybody? We will talk a lot about it because it's a fundamental phenomenon that we have to address, okay? We have to make sure that we accommodate sales. We open a retail business in order to sell. On the other hand, operating with wider and wider assortments has a huge negative implication on the performance of the business. As we all know, forecast is impossible to have an accurate forecast. And the wider range you are operating with, the greater the misalignment between what you actually have and what the market is willing to buy. Agree? Okay, so let's start. First, I will put some disclaimers. I like to start with disclaimers. The first one is, this is not a presentation about what is TOC for retail. If you came here with the expectation to learn everything there is to learn about TOC for retail, I apologize, this is not what I will try to do. I consider this 90-minute session as an upgrade or a preview for you to understand what needs to be done in order to achieve results, greater results in retail beyond what the available knowledge or the most common knowledge of TOC in the field. Fair enough? Because I saw the way the presentation was described, I also am not going to show you here the strategy and tactic tree for retail. We're working on it. I'll give you a preview. My main objective here is to basically build the need for a new tree and show you what is going to be there once we're going to publish it in a few months' time. I will start with a statement which I hope will shake you a little bit. I'm referring to you as TOC experts. And the statement is the following. Somebody will approach you and ask you, what is TOC for retail? What TOC can do for retail? I'm sure that many of you will start talking about pool distribution, replenishing quickly to actual demand, eliminating the order lead time, not relying on forecast. Fair enough? Right? Let's So I will start with a statement and say that, of course, this is true, but I think the main question, if you really want to improve fast results in retail, the main question is not what to replenish. The main question is what not to replenish. I'll repeat. The main question is not what to replenish and how to replenish. The main question is what not to replenish. That's, for me, once I understood this concept and all the application of it, which I'm going to share with you, this was, for me, a paradigm shift in the approach to retail. Let's understand what we're talking about. The knowledge I'll show you here was developed by, of course, applying it to various retail environments. For example, a big fashion retail. I don't want to mention the names, it doesn't matter really. A big fashion retail, about 170 stores. They plan to open 80 stores this year. Several $billion in size of sales. Each store has about 15,000 SKUs. When we started to work with them, we found out that 10% of SKUs is responsible for something like 37% of sales. Okay? One of their big problems, of course, with such wide range and with the fact that they operate, as any fashion business does, they operate with seasons. They have about 3 seasons. I say about because some seasons overlap in their region. Every season is between 3 to 4 months. One of their major problems is that about 20% of their SKUs, of their stock, they have to sell at significant markdowns. And when you mark down the price, markdowns, activations, promotions, discounts, end of season discounts, it has different names in different retail environments. Everybody understand? Okay? So about 20% of their stock they have to sell at significant markdowns, and this wipes out the profit of the company dramatically. Another example, retail of electronic goods. Okay, cameras, laptops, televisions, etc. About 90 stores, about $500,000 in size. Plan to open 20 new stores next year. When we checked by the way, what is the major challenge in electronic goods for retail? Anybody? Not exactly shelf life, it's called market life. All right, market life. They have about 2,500 SKUs in each store, and every year, how many new SKUs are introduced to a store, do you know? 2,500, okay? You understand the complication here. Well, how do I deal with those that I could not sell? It's a big problem. No, suppliers, brands are not willing to take back everything you have not sold. Not if they gave it to you on very good discount prices. One of the interesting phenomena we found there, that when they introduce new products to the store, it's very difficult to have the right product introduced. Yes, sometimes you know that the next iPhone will sell and will be a bestseller, but these are the exceptions. Okay, if I introduce this new product, it's also electronic goods, I have no idea if it will be sold, if it's going to be a good seller or not. By the way, only 20% of the new products that they introduce to stores, I won't call it bestseller, I'll call them good sellers. You know how they define good sellers? It means that they are able to return the investment on the display. This is good sellers. 20% of the new products. Interesting environment, right? Another retail, I think you've heard several of their presentations in past TOC jewelry, okay? A jewelry retail. They have about 180 stores. When we asked them how many SKUs you have, they said, look, really you need to answer it in the following way. First is, how many SKUs do we offer the stores to hold? Okay, and then pick and choose twice a year their collection. Do you know what is, and they call it the universe, okay? Do you know what is the universe of possible SKUs in this jewelry store? Everybody understand my point? Okay. What's the universe? 100,000. Okay, 100,000 possible SKUs for you to choose in your stores. Okay, I'm talking about earrings, bangles, chains, etc., plain gold, studded, etc. Stores hold about, I would say, 7,000 SKUs with all the variants. New products introduced every year. From this 100,000 is about 6,500 introduced. Of course, inventory is quite an investment in jewelry. Another retail environment that we've been applying this knowledge, watch. Another one is sport goods. Another one is eyewear, glasses. So I think another one is catalog retail without stores. So I think we have gained quite a bit of experience, and that's why we felt that the time came to start sharing what we've learned and how we're applying it, just before we're going to publish the strategy and tactic tree. So let's start. The retail paradox. I've never came across a retail that I said this sentence and I got it doesn't happen to me. Stores are packed with inventory, yet there is continuous pressure for more products. This is a truth, if you want, for retail. By the way, are there anybody here from retail business? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you agree? Yes? Do you agree this is true? I see head going like this. Okay, stores are packed with inventory, yet there is continuous pressure for more products. Why? Why this is the case? Sorry. Where's the pointer? Why this is the case? How could it be? We have so much inventory, yet there is continuous pressure for more. Let's understand it, because this phenomena is very common, and it doesn't matter which retail and where and where the retail is located and what is the size of the retail. Most likely, I will get it right one day. Most likely, it's because much of the inventories that we have in the stores is the wrong inventory. What is wrong inventory? It's very simple to answer. Wrong inventory is inventory you cannot sell fast enough. Why is it so prevalent? It must be that it stems from some fundamental ways we manage retail. Otherwise, it will not be such a prevalent phenomenon. Why? Let's see. I want to share with you 3 elements, 3 reasons why we see that this phenomena is so common. The first one we call our bias. Wait, I'll get it. Got it. Our bias. You can't sell what you don't have, of course. To protect sales, we prefer to err on the safe side and have safety stock. Of course, the number one reason why we have retail is to sell. We have to sell. That's the name of the game. To sell, I need inventory. Let me have safety stock. A simple formula which works in every retail. If you take the complete product width, okay, width is range, assortment, multiply by the safe product depth, so to have enough units from every SKU. Everybody with me? Okay, if you just do this simple formula, equals too much inventory. Fair enough? An example from apparel business. When filling up a store, every style comes in set of sizes, okay? Actually, that's how they replenish as well. They don't replenish by the specific shirt, but they want to make sure that they have the sets, okay? And the sets is composed of different sizes. For example, one of 38, two of 40, two of 42, one of 44. Minimum initial store filled 2 sets per style. That was their policy. But bestsellers are selling at an average rate of 1 piece per week. That's the best top sellers. Okay, most SKUs, and SKU is defined the style and the size, maybe you will sell 1 a month. Okay, 1 piece a month. A non-negligible chunk does not get to sell until the end of season sales, EOSS, end of season sales. Okay, so you take the simple formula, example from apparel, you end up with too much inventory and at the same time the pressure to add more. This was an example of over depth. Okay, too much. Let's talk about over width. An example from sport retail. Just look at the speed at which we increase our range offering over the years. Okay, this is from an actual retail. I don't want to say its name. And that's the number of SKUs in a store, okay, in a store, okay, over the years. Okay, again, remember the joke? Okay, so some customers want half a watermelon. Let's also have half watermelons in the stores. Everybody? The range is becoming far larger than the store's ability to represent and sell. Okay, think for example, let's go back to the electronic goods. Okay, you have about 2,500 SKUs in the store, and you introduce every year 2,500 SKUs. Something is a problem here. Our bias. Let's talk again about our bias. And that's one of the most important graphs that brings back to the point that the most important thing is what not to replenish. I'm just sharing with you loss of sales potential versus level of inventory. And you know which graph are we going to see? The famous U-curve. What these U-curves want to show us? Okay, on one hand, if I have too low level of inventory, I reach starvation. Okay, limited range or limited depth and have shortages. If I have too high inventory, I reach saturation. Okay, aged stock, low freshness, shortages. I think this graph is very important because we in TOC, we often present the conflict of inventory as a conflict between sales and cost, correct? Okay, we want to ensure availability for sales, let's hold more inventory. We want to control cost, let's hold less inventory. What we find more and more that it's not really a conflict between sales and financial measurement. We are not, in TOC, we are not here in order to take care of the financial operation or performance of the company. Not that it's not important, of course it's important. But the real challenge or the real conflict is too high, too little inventory is a conflict not between sales and cost, but between sales and sales. I'll repeat. Too much or too little inventory is a real conflict between sales and sales. Why? Look again on this graph. If I have too little inventory, I will have the limited range and the shortages. If I have too much level of inventory, yes, you have working capital, you have cost issues, that's true. But look at what happens to sales. Aged inventory, customers going to the store, does not see freshness, does not see new merchandise in the store. If you have too much inventory of what you cannot sell, then you will have your ability to replenish what you can sell become tougher and tougher. Everybody understand? Right? I have a budget. Now I'm stuck with all this inventory I cannot sell. I have a problem to order what I sold. Everybody with me? Take, for example, the jewelry retail we talked about. You know that about 30% of their inventory is older than 9 months. in the stores. Everybody understand the meaning? 30%. What they call fast movers are SKUs that they are able to sell 1 unit in 3 months. Just for you to understand the challenge here. Okay? So if I finally sold a unit, let's say after 2 months, and I have all these SKUs that I have not sold, am I going to rush and order exactly what I sold? And when I sold it? Everybody understand the dilemma here? This is really a tough challenge, and the challenge is not between costs and sales, even though we like to present it. And we like to present it like that because, of course, cost is something I can measure. So it's easy for me to measure how much the inventory cost me. How much sales I lost because I had limited range or because I didn't replenish what I actually sold, this I cannot measure. It's potential. I cannot measure the potential. I can only pilot and test it. Fair enough? My friends, you know, my father used to say, this is flexible. You can do like this. Don't be so frozen with me. Okay. Let's continue. Where do we see most retailers? We see them on this extreme side of the U-curve. This is exactly what we were talking about. By the way, this is an interesting phenomena that for you TOC experts will sound very, very familiar. What do we see in this phenomena? We want to protect sales. We want to increase sales, so we hold over safety. We hold a lot of inventory, right? Everybody? Okay, we have too much inventory, limited our freshness, low walk-ins. But let me explain this. In retail, actually, if you want to measure the performance of a retail, there are 2 important indicators or key performance indicators. One is walk-ins. How many consumers are going into your stores? The second one is conversion. From those who enter into the stores, how many you made a good sale, not a markdown, but a good sale. Okay, these are good conversions. So limited freshness. Freshness is new products, new designs. We want new products in the stores in order to attract walk-ins, in order to attract consumers to go into the stores, and in order to sell again and again. Okay, low walk-ins, low conversion, loss of sales, too much inventory. Okay, I'm losing sales, I need more, so I end up with too much of the wrong inventory. And here is the statement that will sound very familiar. Our safety works against us. Is this familiar to you? Do we see the same in production? Right? Safety in production is time. Right? Do we see the same in projects? Right? Our safety works against us. We want the safety to protect us, but our tendency, this vicious cycle, causes us to take more and more safety. For example, to work on more and more projects at the same time, or in the case of retail, to have more and more safety width and depth, till the point that it works against us. By the way, what is the first action we do in projects or in production when we understand that the safety works against us? What is the first thing we do? Choke or freeze, right? We are not anymore running in order to identify the constraint and let's start scheduling the constraint. No, the first thing, if we identify in the environment that the safety works against us, let's choke, let's freeze. Why? Let's cut the safety, in other words. Why? Because this will very quickly generate results. And then we will fine-tune it with good scheduling, etc., and good buffering. Fair enough, everybody? I'll give you a preview to what you're going to see. In retail, it's the same. If we found out that the safety works against us, what should be the first thing we do? Let's prevent saturation. We have too much depth, too much range. Of course, we need to know where to cut and how to cut. But that's the first thing you do. Then, I'll tell you another secret. You'll also release or you will deal with the number one cause why retailers are not rushing to replenish what they sell. It's just because they have too much safety. Cut it. I will, of course, discuss it later in greater depth. Remember, I said that I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why we end up having too much of the wrong inventory and too little from the right inventory. And the first reason was that our bias, basically the safety works against us. What is the second reason? Lack of synchronization. Lack of synchronization is a major contributor to our inability to have the right inventory. What do I mean by lack of synchronization? Well, like retail, like any other company or a system, it's built from many subsystems. Each one has their local measurements. Okay, there is a need to maintain high product availability. In many cases, this is the need of supply chain. There is a need to introduce new products or collections, merchandise, design department need. There is a need to get rid of aged stock. Okay, retail, get room in the budget or in the shelf to have the new merchandise. There is a need to broaden our products category and range. That's the need of merchandises. Our processes, and it's again, of course, as we know in TOC, it's not because people are bad, but basically many times our processes that we have to try and achieve each one of these important measurements are not synchronized towards the global optima. Let's give some examples in retail. Okay, new product introduction, synchronization, jewelry. Typical store range, 5,000 SKUs. Yearly new product introduction, 6,500. Consider the following. 30% of the stock takes more than 6 months to sell. I said 9 months before, sorry, 6 months. 30% of the stock are bestseller products. What do we expect the new products to substitute, a bestseller or a non-mover? Let me repeat the question. It's very important. Look, a new product. Yes, sometimes you have the exceptions of the iPhone. You know it's going to be a bestseller. But a new product, normally, you don't know how well it will sell. Everybody agree? What would I like? Would I like the new product to replace a slow-moving item or a fast-moving item? Slow-moving, of course. I need to get rid of the slow-moving items and put a fast-moving item, of course. But when you have such a reality where a lot of my merchandise is composed of SKUs that I cannot sell, and a pressure to introduce new products at the same time. Everybody with me? I must introduce a new product to the store. I have so much inventory that I cannot sell. When will I introduce a new product? Will I introduce it only when a slow-moving is selling? I need to introduce it. I'm under pressure. What will I do? I will introduce it the moment my constraint, cash or space, is alleviated. What is selling faster, the fast mover or the slow mover? The fast mover. Which means what? Many times we introduce the new products instead of the fast movers. Everybody? Yes? You understand how absurd this is? Here I am with the new products that by definition has a lower probability to be a fast mover because only 10%, 20% are fast movers, 30% are fast movers. So there is a higher probability it will not be a fast mover, and I'm putting it in the store instead of a higher probability selling product. Everybody? Do you see the absurd? Not because people are bad or stupid, but because of the different measurements and pressures that we are working under. Okay, what are the ramifications at the category level? I think everybody understands. Let's talk about the third element. So the first element was our bias. Safety works against us. The second element was synchronization. We operate under different measurements, different pressures, and when it's not synchronized, for example, new product introduction and liquidation of the slow-moving items, when it's not synchronized, we end up having too much of the wrong inventory. Everybody with me? Okay. Third element. Managing inventory using forecast. Okay, I think this one I don't need to elaborate. Any TOC expert knows this very, very well, right? The third element that results in us in retail having too much of the wrong inventory is the fact that we buy, produce, and allocate inventory based on forecast. Forecasts are never accurate. The longer our lead time, the poorer the forecast accuracy. I'm sure you can give me many examples from your experience. Just an example again from garments. I said that they have, let's say, 3 seasons, but the cycle time to build up to the season takes 9 to 13 months. In their case, it was 9 months. 9 months before the season starts, they already need to place the orders on the fabric suppliers. Everybody understand? So they need to make the forecast 9 months in advance. Season time, in this case, 6 months. Forecast method, forecast the entire SKU range and depth 9 to 13 months before the season starts. What is our chance to get it right? Performance. That's something important. You know, many times when we talk with retailer about forecast, they tell us, what do you want? We have very high forecast alignment. Okay? Very high. For example, they told us we have 85-90% alignment to forecast. Is this the right measurement? Alignment to forecast. What is alignment to forecast? From the ones that we forecasted to have, how many we actually have. But in reality, what do we find? 50% shortages of the best sellers 2 months into the season. Okay, this is an example from apparel. Let me give you the example from electronic goods. When we started, we did a check and we found out that 20 SKUs, not 20%, 20 SKUs are responsible for 15% of sales. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, 200 SKUs responsible for 50. 20 responsible for 15% of sales. You would expect that these 20 SKUs will be available in every store. Correct? I mean, we said, okay, let's do a snapshot. Okay, not a history, just a snapshot. From your current availability at the stores, how many stores hold all the 20 SKUs? How many? 0. They were shocked. And these are not like in books out of print. Okay, it's not that you cannot order the SKUs. Okay? 0. Yeah, alignment to forecast, very important. 50% of sales are at full price, 30% on discounts. Okay, we all know this. Yeah, you have very high alignment to forecast, but the difference between forecast and actual demand is very poor. Okay. The bottom line, unsatisfactory financial performance, sales, margins, inventory turns, ROI, conflicts and tension. And by the way, that's always the case. I'm sure you can agree with me. In every company, when you are having pressures on growth, pressures on stability, unavoidably harmony deteriorates as well, correct? Okay, so you have conflicts and tensions between the key functions, the branding, the merchandising, supply chain, retail. Everybody blame the other function for not doing its job. Some of the retailers that I explained to you, shared with you, are vertically integrated. They have their manufacturing. One of the most common conflicts we see, let me summarize it with a sentence. Why don't you produce what we can sell? Why don't you sell what we have produced? Okay, so how are we going to measure to make sure that we have the right inventory at the right place at the right time? And here again, I'm trying to plant the following thought in your minds. It's much more about what not to replenish than about what to replenish. Much more. The number one reason why replenishment of fast movers is not happening, most likely because you have not even identified what are the fast movers, is because you have too much. Too much width, too much depth. Cut. First step, prevent saturation. Okay, we said that we are here. Let's try to move here. Sounds familiar? How do we do it? Okay, having less wrong inventory, but how do we know that we have the right inventory? How are we doing it? Okay, and here I will show you a graph that I think whenever we start an implementation with a retail, you must produce this graph. It's a key for everything. And this is the following graph. It has different ways to show it. I will show you first this way and then another way to show it. What do we see in this graph? Here we see SKUs. If 1 SKU, 20 SKUs, 39 SKUs, etc. These are, and this is stock. What do we see? We see that a relatively limited number of SKUs are responsible for high degree of sales. These are the fast movers. But when we look at for the same SKUs on the stock levels, it doesn't follow the same pattern. Everybody understand? Okay, look, let me show you another way, the same graph. Okay, that's another way to show it. What do we see here? Relatively few numbers of SKUs responsible for high level of sales. And then we see that the accumulation of sales relatively to accumulation of inventory, or the additional inventory that we have from these SKUs, do not add much to sales. Everybody see? Why this graph is so important? Because the way we run retail today treats all SKUs as equal. All SKUs were not born equal. Sorry to be racist. All SKUs are not born equal. Maybe they were born equal, but they are not equal. Okay, you have the head product. You have the head product. You have what we call the belly and the tail. And you need to treat each type of SKU differently. Differently. For example, to replenish a tail product is not so smart. To keep a tail product in the store and just to wait until the end of season, and because of that not to replenish a head product is not so smart as well. Fair enough? To have a head product, sell it, but not replenish it, because I want a fresh product, I want a new product, or because I'm stuck with too much of tail, is working against me. I sold the head product, let's replenish. By the way, this graph, all SKUs are not equal. Remember, you need to do it by category or price band. If I will just replenish the head products, and the head products are giving me very low margin, I very quickly will end up having in the store a lot of fast-moving items, but each one give me very low margin. Everybody understand? Okay, you have to do it by category. Which brings us to another subject, is how do I measure the performance of a category and manage the range in each category? That's yet to come. When do I need to finish? Yuji? Give me, I forgot. Sorry? 3:30? Oh, I have time. Good. Since I have time, I want to share with you something very important, because I believe that one of the things I want to bring to you is not only what is the solution for retail, but also how to explain it, how to share it, how to talk to people, to retail. How do we break this mindset that TOC is nice for production or it's only about operations, etc. We recently participated in a conference about retail and supply chain with many companies. And there was a lot of discussion about the challenges. I broke it. Again. A lot of discussion about the challenges of supply chain in the future, of course being more cost effective, globalizations, etc. And all of this is very true. But when we came and talked, we said, look, I think we're missing something. The biggest challenges of supply chain and retail is not coming from the cost side. I will explain. In supply chain, what is our objective? Our objective is to cater to demand. Demand is our client. How do we cater to demand? We need to make sure we have the right product at the right place at the right time. What we see around the world, it doesn't matter which region, and across industries, electronic consumer goods or apparel or even food and beverages, across industries, cars, we see three dynamics in demand that are making our life in supply chain and retail more and more challenging. In other words, that are making this graph tougher and tougher. What are these three dynamics? The first one is, and here I will return to the joke of the watermelon. The first one is that consumers are becoming more and more sensitive to get the product that they want, that fits their needs, their tastes, their desires, whatever it is. I want half a watermelon. Probably it's coming also from consumers being aware to what is out there offered. Agree? This, as we said, put pressures on retailer to work with wider and wider assortments. The wider the assortments, the greater will be, the tougher will be this graph. In other words, you have bigger tail, and it's more challenging to identify and maintain the head. Everybody with me? Agree? I don't need to explain to you why, right? What is the third dynamic we see in demand? The third dynamic is that consumers' tolerance time is becoming shorter and shorter. What is consumers' tolerance time? The time that consumers are willing to wait until the product is immediately available. And don't tell me to go to another store, and don't tell me that to wait and that you will bring me from another store. I want it now. You don't have it? Okay, bye-bye. The tolerance time is getting shorter and shorter. By the way, in a big survey that Ernst & Young have done, anybody that would like it, just give me an email, I will send it to you. Fantastic survey. They showed something very interesting, that the number one reason why consumers will be willing to pay more, the number one reason, and they did these surveys on thousands of consumers across industries. The number one reason, availability. Okay? When the tolerance time is becoming shorter and shorter, we are losing our ability to aggregate, to use the power of aggregation. Fair enough, everybody? I assume that those of you who are experts in TOC know exactly what I'm saying. Okay, you cannot do it anymore. I cannot keep it in the warehouse, and if a consumer goes to the store and wants something very special, I tell him, okay, I will give it to you in 3 days. Oh, but I'll just buy it from the internet, forget it. Everybody? And also, the more we need to keep the inventory in stock for immediate consumption, the tougher this challenge. And the third dynamic we see in demand, probably the toughest, is that the product lifetime is becoming shorter and shorter. Okay, the first dynamic was personalization, putting pressure to work with wider assortments. The second dynamic was tolerance time becoming shorter and shorter, putting pressure to have more SKUs in stock at point of sales or consumption. And the third dynamic is that the product lifetime is becoming shorter and shorter. What is product lifetime? The time the product is valid in the market until a substitute comes, until an alternative product is offered in the market, which makes the how do I say it in English? Which gives you two options with your existing product. Either you cannot sell it, or you need to dramatically discount it. Fair enough? What is the industry where the product lifetime is, where this is the epidemic, that the product lifetime is becoming shorter and shorter? Sorry? Electronics. Those of you who remember, my father used to often talk about the product lifetime becoming shorter than the development time, which means until the brands are able to develop the new product, there is a substitute already in the market, a better alternative. Putting pressure, of course, on brands to reduce dramatically their development capabilities. For example, working with parallel teams. One team works on the second generation in parallel, another team already works on the third generation, etc. This is no longer the case. This is no longer the case. Let me explain again. Product lifetime shorter than the development time is no longer the case. It used to be the case. Because brands reduce dramatically the development time, which means introduce much quicker products to the market, what happened to the product lifetime? Reduced even further, right? There is a cycle here. Now, all of you as consumers know the following. Today, the product lifetime is shorter than the supply time. What does it mean? Before the product is available in the stores, we, the consumers, already know the next one that is coming. Of course, I'm describing an extreme, but this is what we see more and more. Before the product is available in the store, we already know the next one that is supposed to come. Hey, where is the new generation of televisions? I know I'm supposed to have now the 3D, the 4D, the... Yes? When product lifetime is becoming shorter and shorter, what does it do to this graph? What does it mean on the tail products? You have much longer and thicker tail. Everybody with me? Of course, with a huge challenge. What do we do? How do we introduce the new product? If I don't introduce a new product, I will not have walk-ins. I will not have conversions. Okay, I will introduce a new product, but then what does it mean on the tail product? I need to discount it. But wait a minute, if I will discount it, I lose all my margin. Also, if I will discount it, I will now have a competition between the old product and the new product, and maybe the new product will become a tail. Oh. C'est la vie. By the way, these three dynamics that I was just sharing with you, personalization, working with wider assortments, tolerance time going to zero, more and more, and product lifetime is reducing. These three dynamics, if you really want to draw the conclusion, it means retailers and supply chain, or consumer goods companies, the only way to survive the future, forget success, survive the future, because it's just going to be stronger and stronger, is to have a highly, highly, highly rapid, fast, flexible reaction to actual demand. Supply chain. Fair enough, everybody? That's the only way. Examples of the graph. Okay, this is from consumers electronic, actual example. Look at this. We talked about limited number of SKUs responsible for high degree of sales. Look. By the way, in electronic goods, it was interesting to define a head product because of the following phenomena. If I will just look at the rate of sales, how many were sold, I'm ignoring the following phenomena. Since we do not maintain availability of the head products, some products that may have become head do not become head simply because they were not available. Fair enough, everybody? So we had another look. We said, you know what, let's look at availability days. What does it mean? The time that the products were available, only during this time, how many were sold? Everybody understand? You know what we found? Remember this list of 20 SKUs? So we didn't look at all the 20 SKUs, we looked at the top 10. And then we compared it to the top 10 based on availability days, and the top 5 of availability days were not in the top 10. Were not in the top 10. Just to tell you the magnitude of missing the head. You with me? By the way, how should we treat the head products? Two action items that we need to do once we identify the head products. What do we need to do? First action. Hello? It's a workshop. First action. This is also flexible. What do we need to do before replenishing? Let's look at the stores. Are these SKUs populated in all the stores? Just make sure they are there. They are not. They will tell you they are there. Don't believe. Don't believe. Make sure they are populated. Very quickly. Forget about setting targets, replenish. That's the second thing. And now let's just replenish. Okay, whenever it's sold, let's replenish. And of course, as frequent as possible. We all know this pool demand distribution. Okay. That's another example from a web catalog retail. Okay, apparel. The most selling category, ladies. I'm not going to talk about heavy apparel. Ladies, okay, look at this. You see? Okay, that's another one. 90% of the 90% of the SKUs. This is what is this? This is household furniture. 90% are tail. Okay. What do we do with the tail product? Okay, what do we do with the tail product? First, don't replenish. They are replenished today. Don't replenish. Cut, freeze, call it whatever you want. Second, what do? Substitute. Or in other words, when you get rid of it, and when you get rid of it, synchronize it with what? With the new product introduction. Everybody understand? Because today, too often, new products are introduced instead of the fast mover. They're not introduced instead of the tail. Let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, head is the sales driver, tail is the stock driver, belly is the variety driver, but that's just titles. Okay, to increase sales, margins, and inventory turns, each group of products must be rapidly identified and need to be addressed differently. Let's understand it. Synchronize processes. Our wish list. How can we capture all the sales opportunities? By introducing enough new products, but without packing the store with inventory. By offering adequate products range and sufficient availability for our products, but without aging inventory. By doing attractive sales promotions, but without aging inventory. So how do we do these nice things? Okay, Here, I want to say something very important. There are various ways to synchronize the processes, and it highly depends on the retail environment. Which retail it is, how does it operate, what is the status of the retail, etc. What I'm showing you here is an example. Okay? The important thing is to synchronize the processes. And when I say synchronize, means synchronize tail liquidation with new product introduction. Everybody with me? Okay, that's what you need. That's the concept. Okay, how to do it? There are various ways. I'm showing examples. An example. How do we ensure we have high success rate of new product introduction, but without packing the store with inventory and without cannibalizing bestsellers? Okay, here's an example from jewelry. Okay, we said about 6,500 new products introduced yearly in 2 major events. That's how they used to do it. What does it mean? When we introduce new products, let's introduce it in big bulks. It's very common across retailers, not in every retailer, but it's very common to introduce it in big bulks. Stores were called to new product introduction event to evaluate the new designs and select the bulk of new products they desired. Yet, very few new products became bestsellers. Large amount of the new products ended up in the tail, which is very common. What did we do? Okay, let's stop introduce big bulks. We don't need, our safety works against us. Why do we need it? Anyhow, from this universe of 100,000 SKUs, only a fraction is actually held in the stores. Why do we need it? Okay, let's introduce much less new products, still enough in order for the store to constantly be refreshed. In this case, we divided our stores to 3 equal groups. Okay, let's call it group 1, group 2, group 3. Each group is getting unique set of new products for 4 months. Okay, so each group of stores got a different types of groups of new products for 4 months. During the 4 months, the new products are on replenishment. Why? Why are they on replenishment? Because I need to know if they are heads, belly, or tail. If I don't replenish them, I don't give them the chance to be a head. During the 4 months, the new products are on replenishment. After 4 months, the sets are rotated between the stores. That's the key here. It's not huge bulks. Now, when I rotate them, it means that every store will still be able to introduce new designs that they were not displaying before. Everybody understand? Which is important for walk-ins. I still maintain even a much higher rate of freshness in the store without packing the stores with inventory that I cannot sell. Understood? Now, I'm telling you, this cannot be done in every retail. This highly depends on the retail environment. For example, for this to work, one condition must be there, which is that the salesperson, for example, you can rotate the inventory. In fashion, for example, inventory that was in one store, you cannot move it to another many times. You opened it. Everybody understood? You cannot. Sometimes you can, but many times you cannot just do it. For this to work, another condition is that, what are we saying here? We're saying here actually that SKUs that worked bad in one group can still work good in another group. Otherwise, why the hell do I rotate it? You with me? I will say it again. I expected one of you to jump at me, but you're so polite, and tell me, Rami, I don't understand. You told us that if you have a tail, remove it. Now you're telling me to rotate it. This is crazy. If I found out after 4 months that something is a tail, why the hell do I move it to another store? Fair enough? You're too mild today. Eat me. No, it's a joke. Don't do that. So I bite back. But if you are, but in this case, in this particular retail, we found when we did the analysis, listen to this, 15% of tail products were best sellers in another store. Head. only 30% of the tail, only 30% of the tail were true tail. What is true tail? There would be tail probably in every store. Okay, and when you find out that this is, and it's not the case for any retail, when you find out that this is the case, then it makes sense to rotate. By the way, usually it is the case when the salesperson can influence dramatically the buying decision. Okay, when the salesperson can really influence the buying decision, I expect to see great variability between tail and head in different stores. Mr. Kemp.
So also, I think the advantage of switching is that it freshens the selection. If I don't buy it and I see a fresher selection, I'm more likely to come back.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. When you are doing this, you're actually increasing the frequency of freshness.
And I'm maybe selling only head products when I do that. Even if the new items that rotate in are still tails, I may still increase sales of head products by having a fresher selection.
Correct, because you are attracting the customers. However, if something is a true tail, and let's remember, from the universe of new products, you only chose a fraction, I will recommend you, forget it, don't rotate the tail. Just get rid of it. Put another new product in the store. Okay? Don't rotate. You do rotation when you really know that, and it's not a problem to check it, that up front, that a tail in one store is not necessarily a tail in another. Then it makes sense to rotate the new products. Fair enough? That's an example of synchronizing new product introduction with tail liquidation. Just an example. We have done it very differently in different retails. Okay. Results. I don't need to tell you that TOC works, right? There are great results. Oops. I'm sorry, I want to go back to the graph. Okay. Tail. I want to talk a little bit more about tail. You have to liquidate it. There are many ways to talk about it. Get rid of it. Okay? One thing that many times we see in retail is that the way tail is being liquidated again comes at the expense of selling the head product. Example. You want to get rid of the tail, so you want to promote it to consumers so they can buy it. So where do you put it? In the front. So now the slow-moving items are getting your constraint. Space is a constraint. Not always so smart to do. Okay, and there are many ways that this is happening. Okay, so you need to liquidate it. Just make sure it does not come at the expense of head sales. I will finish the presentation with what you know about head, just to make sure that you don't think that we are saying that the replenishment is not the key for retail. Of course not. It's still the core. Okay, but it's only part of the answer. Okay, the third step that you have to do is respond fast. Respond fast. Remember, it's from supply and the feedback that you get from reality. Okay. Okay, we need to develop the capabilities to respond to actual demand, identify the actual demand rapidly, immediately when going into new season, NPI, new stores, ongoing demand. Okay, so respond quickly. Resupply, product deactivation. This is a liquidation. Liquidation, stock norm alignment, range alignment. I want to say, okay, these are the three elements that all of us know in terms of pool distribution. I'm just going to skip it because it's It's supposed to be the basic knowledge, right? Frequent resupply, aggregation of inventory, demand-based norms, we all know this. What I want to say is what I'm not presenting to you here in terms of retail, but will come later. Let me just skip it. Due to some confusion related to technology, I wanted to share with you a preview of the strategy and tactic tree, and to start sharing with you how we wrote the various techniques to prevent saturation, how do you maintain high availability of head, synchronizing new product introduction with tail liquidation, and something that I have not talked about, which is ongoing category range management. Basically, just a few words about this. We know today buffer management on depth, correct? If you have too much, too little on the depth. What about the range? Is it likely that in many categories we have too wide range that we don't need? Is it likely that in other categories we may have too narrow range and we need to increase it? Is there a right answer? There's no right answer. It will always be, like with any buffer management, some guidelines and then ongoing fast feedback loops to understand if we have too much or too little. There are various ways to do it. Okay, I chose not to present it to you now, but I want you to start thinking about it. Okay, how do we know if in a category we may have too wide range or too little range? And when we make changes, how do we quickly find out if we are moving to the right direction? In other words, increasing range or reducing range. All of this knowledge is appearing here. What I shared with you now is the new knowledge relating to effective merchandise management. We call it exploit the constraint. The next knowledge that is coming up, that will come out, is how do we manage the store itself, not the merchandise, the store. Okay? We see great variability between stores' performance where the variability should not be so high. It means that there is some gap in performances, in the way the store inventory is being presented, in the way the inventory is being sold. How do you identify the best practices? How do you do the benchmark, the KPIs? All of this knowledge is the next knowledge that will come. And the S&T tree will be available to all of you in a few months' time. We want to make sure, once we release it, that we avoid some mistakes that I believe happened in the past, mistakes with releasing of S&T trees. You see, knowledge, of course, is dynamic. It needs to fit the reality, and it cannot possibly cover all the various circumstances of reality because reality changes. And we have to be very careful that people will understand the concepts, the strategies, if you wish, and the assumptions, and will not just blindly follow the tactics thinking that it will fit in every case. Everybody understand? At the same time, we'll understand it is good enough, so when somebody tells them we cannot apply this tactic in our reality, they don't just shy away, okay, and say, okay, in your reality we cannot choke, for example. We still need to make sure, before we release the tree, that it will enable us to achieve it. I don't want to release knowledge and say, here it is, we came with these 10 commandments. It's not the way to work. We want to release the knowledge when we are certain that it's presented in a way that will enable everybody to understand the concepts and how to apply it to various environments. This is true also within our company. We're doing the same thing. Not everybody in the company is exposed to this tree because we have to still carefully modify it to reality. I would like to finish the presentation with a statement which we teach every retail we work with. It's like a funny statement. And the statement is the following. Remember the curve of SKU by sales? So, don't lose your head. Keep your belly in shape. and don't grow your tail. Thank you very much. Questions? D, please. Correct. It was not a question. It was, I agree with what he said, but look, with new product introduction, what you need to do is the following. First of all, it's a must. You cannot ignore it. You have to do it, of course. The question is, how do we identify that our bias did not work against us in this aspect as well? That we introduced too many products. And it's very easy to see because you just compare the universe of possible new products to what is presented actually in the stores. If you see that it's just a fraction, it means that the universe is too big. The next thing is that you need to check, you need to have as fast as possible feedback loop from the new products that you introduce to know as quickly as possible if it's a head, a belly, or a tail. Okay? And to synchronize whatever processes in the company, again, it's so generic because different retailers have different local measurements that may prevent you from quickly understanding whether a new product is a head, belly, or tail. Okay? For example, if you have a local measurement that push you to buy huge bulks of new products, then you'll be under pressure to wait longer with the new products in the stores before you liquid. Everybody understand? It depends on, you have to very quickly find out. One of the techniques, for example, that we often try is to reduce the supply time of the new products, making deals with the suppliers, and then you are able to do pilots. So I do a pilot of new products, I learn quickly if it's a head, belly, or tail, and because I reduce with a good financial deal, the supply time of the supplier, I'm able to respond fast if I see something is ahead. Everybody with me? Next. Julia. Ladies first, Alan, if you don't mind. You can argue with Julia, but I would not do that.
Rami, would you recommend for retail chains when the traffic is declining? I mean, consumers
Okay.
are going less and less to the stores, and there is a doubt that if we make replenishment, if we make all these mechanisms, they will notice it because, for example, we're talking about some rare purchasing.
Who will?
I mean, pharmaceutical, I mean, electronic SKUs and etc. when they are going to the store once per several months, for example. So, is there any additional injection in order to?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. The question was, what? The question was, what do we do in a case where the traffic to the stores, walk-ins, is not good and actually declining? Okay, do we have some injections to increase the traffic to the stores? There is a concern, Julia said, that the replenishment will actually reduce further, did I understand correctly? Will reduce the traffic because consumers will come to know that it's the same merchandise that is being held in the store. Yeah, everybody understood the question? Okay, of course there is not one solution fits all in this case, but to induce traffics to the store, I can only answer with examples. I'm sorry. There's no generic answer. Remember the fashion retail? The sport retail? One of the things we have done there, we used the fact that we choked that we prevented saturations, that we reduced dramatically their over range and over depth in the stores. We used it in order to rearrange the way the inventory is displayed in the store and make it much more look like a high brand appearance. Not everything stuck together that you need to find but much more high-appealing brand. And this we saw dramatically increase the walk-ins to the store. That's an example. I'm not saying that it will work always. The reason I'm sharing you with this example is that it's a possibility that you have that you did not have before. Once you apply this solution, for sure the inventory the depth per styles is reducing, so you are able to rearrange the way the inventory is being displayed in the store, and this may increase traffic. Okay? Another thing that you're doing is make sure the head is available. In many, many retailers, and you can check it very quickly, you don't need to convince them to do things. You just check to see to what extent the head is populated in the stores. If head is not populated in the stores, this reduces walk-ins dramatically, and you can increase them very fast. Okay, and there are many other that I cannot. Alan.
Rami, the Toyota of the retailer Zara.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share some findings of what did you find in your confirmations that's similar to what Zara is doing that hasn't been?
What Zara is doing that made them what they are, if I understood correctly, and I'm not an expert on Zara, is that they were able to dramatically increase the frequency of new designs introduction to the stores, dramatically. They have, how many seasons do they have? It's not even a season. We are not, and we had some discussions with fashion retailers, we are not trying to argue whether Zara is correct or not. We know one thing. They are proving that freshness, new freshness of designs in the stores is working to the favor of the stores. But they took it to an extreme. And the extreme is that there's no replenishment, really. Okay? If it's out, it's out. Now, the retailer needs to decide, do I want to be a Zara? Is this something that fits the profile of my market? Or do I operate in a different type of environment where I still understand that I need to introduce more frequently new designs, but it makes sense to maintain the head products? Okay, not like what Zara is doing. It depends on this, because Zara does not do it. Yes, and it's not a mystery why you don't have many Zaras in the world. Justin, please. My friend, louder, sorry.
So you talk about 3 categories of product, head, belly, and tail.
It's not categories, but yeah.
Yeah. Is there a danger that you optimize on that basis as opposed to optimizing on a SKU-by-SKU basis?
Look, first of all, you have to do it by category. You have to do it by category, not by overall SKUs. So by category, you need to understand the head, belly, and tail. Now, the SKU, you need to understand, it's a slow-moving or a fast-moving. It is on the SKU level. It is on the SKU level, because the question is this SKU, is it a slow-moving item being on the tail? Is it a fast-moving item being on a head? Or is it something I'm not yet certain, and I need to decide if I want to replenish or not? So the actual practical decision is on the SKU level. Okay? I just warn you not to do it as if all SKUs are equal. That's why you need to go by categories. I gave you an example that if you just maintain head products, in some retail environments, the head products may have low margin and you shoot yourself in the head. My friends, I shocked you or I bored you. One of the two extremes. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.